see you too.
I love that background.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
It's very
You
sunny.
see the background?
Like you.
It is, because it's summer.
Good plan.
Yeah.
Oh, this is my flat, which yeah, it's a bit messy, so
Oh, okay.
I couldn't be bothered to put up my whatever it's called, the green screen. So
Yeah. How's it going?
I'm getting lazier and lazier, I think, Amazon.
Yeah, that seems to happen. It goes in bursts, apparently here. It's like there's days that I just watch nonstop Netflix or whatever.
Really? Yeah.
And there's bursts of like, okay, you know what? I'm making some videos, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So what can I say? I think for me here it seems to be like this kind of really kind of slow. I'm a slow learner, and so this seems to be it seems to be like a slow kind of seeping in and different things coming up and seeings, and it's beautiful. Actually, it's really beautiful, and things that I heard before that I didn't understand, I'm understanding now. Like separation, what it means to be separate. But I didn't really get that. And then the other day I was just sitting and it's like, but if all is one, then obviously there's no separation. It has to be,
Yeah.
And although I'd heard that a million times before, it didn't really click. It didn't really, and suddenly it's, yeah, that's interesting.
That seems to happen a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. There's some triggers that still keep, I think the other thing is like, the belief systems, they're kind of falling away. And I think you talked about like this residue as well, like there could be residue.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because there seems to be more like seeing of the belief systems, whereas before there was just by being mixed up in them and following them. Whereas now it's like, I could see them from a distance. It's like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's playing out, or that's,
kind of like the lens widens a little bit, right? It's not so
it's like
focused
a step back
anymore.
Yeah,
it's like a step back. You're like, wait a second, residues are also beliefs. So when you see that the residues are also belief systems, then all of those residues are kind of like it's like it gets wiped clean, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait a second, what the hell? That kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's interesting. There's, like I say, there's like a few different triggers that kind of still come up, but it's not the same. It's not the same. There are things that come and go really quickly, like I can get caught up in a depression thing, like first thing in the morning, and then hang on, that's just thoughts going round and round and round, and it's like
it is,
as soon as it's seen, there's like it's back into like okay, just
it's a very persistent illusion, that wheel, right? It's the the wheel of illusion it's forever running, right? And but it's when it's seen that it's just spinning. It's just spinning. It's kind of like the step back, kind of like you're like, oh wow.
Yeah.
What a it's also beautiful though if you look at it. Like if you listen to my last one-on-one, which I did yesterday with Rafa. I don't know if you saw that one.
I saw it this morning.
Yeah. She said it's really subtle, right? It's just really subtle. This story that keeps on spinning. It's just, and even the most, micro, minute thing is a story, right? And it's just also beautiful at the same time. You're kind of like, but when you think you are in the story because you're the story, it's tragic, right? It's kind of like, you can't get out of it, and even getting out of it is a story. It's just this spinning. It's just this, infinite loop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's beautiful to not be caught up in that, it's just incredible because yes, a couple of days ago I had some text from friends in London, and they're talking about their birthdays and what they're doing in their lives, and there's this kind of comparison thing going on. Well, I can't afford to go on a cruise, I don't have children, I'm not married, and this kind of story starting up like, and then it's like, again, just seeing, oh, there goes the stories again. And it's and then just back to this again, it's like not that it's a back to, but it's just it drops away. The story drops away.
Yeah.
And it's like clean again. It's like all the noise comes up and then it's clean. It's like fresh.
Yeah.
It's back to.
It's always
this.
new. You understand now when they say it's always new.
That's
right. It's always fresh.
Yeah.
Right. Before, it's like the story gets velcroed.
Yeah.
And then that story becomes this significant, dramatic, or it becomes this. It's a story that breeds stories, and it just all of a sudden it's multiple stories, and all of a sudden it's caught up in a story, and it's just wow. It's just like
Yeah, and that becomes the experience, the human experience of just continually drama after drama, and trying to find solutions, and it's just non-stop. So,
well, you know what, disappearance, you know what I'm saying? This, you know what I'm saying? The apparent dropping away, although no one drops away in the story, there are some speakers that have gradual. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Gradual kind of like stuff.
Yeah, I think Andreas was like that.
Andreas was like that. This one was spontaneous, but it was kind of like, I didn't know what to say. Right? It was like, what the?
Yeah.
it was collapse, but no one collapsed. Right? It was just this dumbfoundedness.
Yeah.
But look at the silence that happened after that. Right? It was just kind of like I could not say anything. I could not speak about this because everything that seemed to appear, you know what I'm saying, was just, although there's this wowness to everything, right? There is this unconditional wow. There was no how do you say it? And it's just a story. It doesn't really matter. See how the story goes, right?
Yeah.
None of that is true. And here we are talking about Andreas and this spontaneous and gradual. But in timelessness, there's no such thing as spontaneous or gradual.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, because it's just always here. Yeah. And the perfection, I think, is something that's quite stunning as well. Like, walking in the park yesterday and just, it's so overwhelming sometimes. Like, the kids playing and the trees and the flowers and the dogs playing, and it's just so, it's like the most beautiful movie you've ever seen, and it's happening right now. It's just it's just, do you
understand
gorgeous.
Now when I used to look out the window and just stare, there for like an hour, it's just this, because I'm looking at the movements of the leaves and I'm mesmerized by that. Right? It's just there it is again. See?
It's funny, isn't it? Because you think, like it's just so fascinating. Like, we've got all these entertainments and everything, like, to occupy people. And yet I was stood in the park yesterday, and like you're talking about the trees, and there's like, we've got this pond or lake in the middle of the park, and the trees, like grow up over the lake. And I could see the glistening. There was like the sun that was reflecting on the lake and then glistening on the leaves that were moving. It was just, I was just mesmerized. I think, how many people have seen this? Like, and I was just like, they're probably looking at me thinking, what the, what's he looking at?
The answer is no one has seen it.
True. Yeah.
I remember in our first, in our very first, not very first, but our first couple ones, and you were looking for that mesmerizing, that shimmering thing. And you were like, where's that?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that's the thing that's dropped as well, as that's this comparison, because even with the meeting that you had with the lady this morning, Rafa, or whatever her name was, and she was saying things like, I can't remember now, things that I haven't seen that, or that's not happening for me, or whatever, and not just her, but different people, things that you said and other speakers, and it's like, just it just doesn't come up anymore. It's like, this is just like so amazing as it is. What's going to happen is going to happen, and what's going to develop or not, or be seen or not, or there isn't that that kind of desperate need for this experience to be the same as somebody else's experience. And I think that's a big relief, because it's not because that's seeking as well. That's just it's part of the seeking.
It is. Yeah, it is. And it's just as it is. It's as it is. Whatever it is as is.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just the simplest way that you could express it. Is everything is as it is.
Yeah.
And because you will never find out what it is, it's always as it is.
Yeah. Yeah,
It
that's
doesn't have a
right.
backstory, or you know what I'm saying? Because even a backstory is just a story. There's no hidden story. There's
Yeah.
no advanced story. There's no levels. It's just beautiful. It's the simplicity that is this boundlessness, right? It's just the simplicity that's really boundless. When I
Yeah.
had that experience of apparent awakening a while back, 10 years ago, there was specialness there.
Yeah.
There was the me there, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That held on to that specialness of, oh, I must be a holy being now. You know what I'm saying? So the
Yeah.
holiness is wiped off.
Yeah.
The sacredness is wiped off. It's kind of like, um, it's just ordinary. It's
Yeah.
just ordinary. And that's even saying too much. But
Yeah.
it's the extraordinariness in the ordinary. I can't even express it. I always pause. Do you find that too, Cal? When you start speaking about it, it's like this kind of like, no, yeah.
It's not quite that. It's not quite this. Well, I don't speak about it because there's nobody who I can talk to about this anyway. So apart from you, I have tried, I think, once or twice, but it's completely pointless because it's impossible. It's
Yeah.
impossible. And you talk around it and you sound like a madman anyway. So
Oh yeah. To my horror, I saw my mom watching Sadhguru, and I'm like, what the hell? But
Oh,
but it's just what's happening. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? She's just a religious woman, and I haven't asked her yet why she's watching Sadhguru. It's as it is.
Yeah.
It's as it is. It's not like, okay, mom, you have to listen to my videos. This is
Yeah.
clarity. No, because there's no one there.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
um, oh, I forgot to mention. Do you notice that Rafa was doing this kind of like looking around? You were
Yeah,
doing the
yeah,
same thing.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it seems to be a common trait.
I think I
Yeah,
did that for quite a while because there was just this disbelief. How is this nothing?
yeah,
But it is as it is.
yeah.
Right? It's just this. It's when the bottom falls out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, it's fascinating.
It is fascinating, and it's quite something that is um bewildering, isn't it? Right? It's almost like a sobriety in the intoxication of the illusion.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's still it's like aliveness in death. There's so
It's
much
like
aliveness in death. Because there's no one here, but they're seeing all of this aliveness apparently, kind of like, like it's so gray right now here in Ontario, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, the grayness, right? Beautiful.
Well, that's the thing, is that I think there's less judgment about how things, should be as well. That's the other thing, is that there's a
And even if
constant,
judgment arises, there's no
yeah,
judgment.
about the judgment. Yeah, it's true, but there's a kind of a constant, like, judgment of people and places and things, and like, it should be like this and that should be like that, and it can still happen, it still comes up, but it's seen, really, I guess. There's not this kind of story about, it should be, and it's laughing, it's laughing at the stuff that comes up, really.
You
Something else I
laugh a
wanted
lot
to say.
more.
It's just light. It's really light. It's like I can't take anything seriously. Like, it's I think people say, like, feeling like a kid again. I mean, I've always been like a kid in my head, but now it's even worse. It's like, you just can't take anything seriously, and everything's just like, doesn't last. It just comes and goes, comes and goes. It's a constant flow rather than a kind of dragging the past and this constant movement into the future, what's going to come next, and this projection of, like, it's quite curious. But one thing that I did want to talk to you about is that because of this kind of laziness, or it's like, I don't know, everything's just happening. It's like it's like the mind's following what's already happening now. It's like this kind of gap between the mind, what's happening, which is already happening, and then this seeing of what's happening. Whereas before, it was this kind of closer bind, and the mind was thinking it was doing, or the person was thinking it was doing what it was doing. So now, like, I've been looking for this house for a long time, and I'm trying to sell my flat, and these kind of practical things that are going on. And yet there's this kind of freezing of like, no decisions are being made. Nothing's like, it's just, it's like nothing, I was supposed to call this lady, like, 2 days ago, yesterday I was supposed to call her, and still, to say whether I wanted the house or not. Nothing's happening, nothing. And it's like, this is seen that there's nothing happening. And it's like, is this normal? Is this what's going on here? And there's like a little bit of tension, like, well, I should be doing this, so I should be doing that. So what's going on there? What's that all about? Is that normal?
Oh, it's wholeness seeing its movement. It's stillness seeing its movement, basically. It's just it's not separate as well. That's also wholeness. That's also complete. And so there's just a seeing that's what's happening now, that there's this. It's always been lazy, but now it's saying but now it's seeing that it's just laziness happening. It's just seeing clearly that that's just what's happening, right? It's not like there's no more charge to, I got to do something, I have to make this happen. Nothing's getting done, right? It's almost like it's relaxed now. Like, well, I guess laziness is just happening.
Yeah. But I had all these projects, like I wanted to buy a camping car and travel. I wanted to buy a little house with a garden. I wanted to have a dog. There's no energy. There's no kind of anything going into these projects. It's just, I don't know why.
It's the neurosis tendency of trying to do something is collapsed, right? It's or collapsing. You know what I'm saying? In your gradualness of this, it's collapsing. That, you know what? There's no one choosing to do any of this, because all of that, you're saying, is just this neurotic tendencies to get something done. Laziness is always happening. So when it doesn't get done, then it becomes suffering. Like, oh, I was supposed to have a house, I'm supposed to have this, and done. But laziness is still there. It doesn't mean it's going to get done, or it can get done. But you see what I'm trying to say? The story is not the neurotic story is not paid attention to anymore.
Right.
It's just seen as, it's just what's happening. Nothing is happening. It doesn't mean that there's something that changed. It's just this lack of it's like, I always use this analogy. It's kind of like, you have this pathological liar chatterer. And then all of a sudden you're kind of like and then all of a sudden you caught the lie so many times that it doesn't have the same charge anymore.
Exactly.
So that's what it is. It's just that the liar is caught, and it's just this, the liar always wants to do something, want to be productive, all of this kind of stuff, because it finds its meanings in those. It finds its reality in those, kind of like in doing. But when there's a non-doer, the doer, the apparent illusion of this doer that has to get things done doesn't really matter anymore, because the doer is a lie. So the doing, trying to do something, trying to get there, trying to get a dog, trying to do that, is this constant trying to get something where it's always looking for something better than this, when it's seen everything as it is. That constant desiring, that's the word that I'm trying to get. The constant desiring to get something done, get a dog, all of this, all of this stuff loses its traction. You don't even notice it. It still rises, you know what I'm saying? But it's just kind of like, well, there's a nice show on Netflix, or there's a new season of whatever, or there's a podcast, or whatever, or I just want to eat chocolate. So it doesn't have any charge anymore. That's still going to happen anyway, but there's this idea that you have to do something. So this constant wanting to do something and things not being done, the desire not being fulfilled, causes this wheel of suffering. Kind of like, oh, I wish I was more productive. Then it becomes another story. I wish, I did this. I wish I'm not lying around. It's just a story. That's what I'm saying. Laziness is always there.
It is. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, it's become more apparent now, I guess. But it's interesting because I don't think there's any kind of being caught up in that. It's like, it's okay, all
it's
the
okay,
kind of, it's okay. At the same time, there's this kind of, I guess it's a curiosity, well, what's going on here? Like, this is still this, like, these projects that hang in there that we've been there for a long time. and yet,
see, it's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
Even when there was a Calvin thinking that he was doing all of this stuff, it was not done.
Yeah. That's true.
Although there's no time. This is just an illumination. This is not not trying to, say that, whatever. It's just what's seen. That everything is just a story, even a story that you're trying to get things done, that you're no longer. That's just a story as well. Even laziness is a story. It's all of these subtle stories, right? It's just basically what's being expressed here is that the desire is gone.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't have any more desires. Wow.
Yeah. It's
so
like
there's this wheel of,
loosening
it's a
up.
loosening. Yeah. So there's this wheel of desire, right? Once you get what you desire for, you kind of like want everyone to have the same desire. And then there's this, when you have everything that you desire, you kind of like wish that I don't have any more desire.
Yeah. It's nonstop.
It's just a circular. It's just nonstop desiring this, desiring that, and now no longer desiring. Desire, it all is just desire. But what's seen now is just this crumbling away of those desires, kind of like, laziness now.
Is it seen like there's no, like, all of these desires are in the hope that this person is going to be more, is going to be happier or more fulfilled or, more successful or whatever, and that's all attributed to kind of the, it's building up this person, this identity, this identity of the person who has been successful, who has done things, who has,
who has a dog.
Who has a dog, whatever. Who's charitable, who's, it's all the same. That's really clear. Like, it's just
it's like almost like a building block for the identity, right? The desires.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a kind of a kind of looking to latch onto something to confirm because there's nothing there, and there's the habit of, like, reaffirming that personality through whatever that is, whether it's a job or a relationship or whatever, and that kind of falls away, and it's like, fuck, there's nothing there anymore. So I guess it's just that loosening up of the wish to grab onto these things for the sense of identity, because there isn't one. So it's really curious. It's really
fascinating though, huh? It's fascinating.
So to watch that mechanism trying to play out as well and failing. Because there's no one doing that anymore. So interested. There's no interest anymore in
it's a lack of belief, a lack of interest, a lack of desire, and it gets translated as a lack of motivation, a lack of doing. All of those are just stories. It's just a lack of stories, really. The stories are falling flat now. It doesn't have anything to hold on to. It's free falling. The stories are just dissolving. It's like it rises. It's kind of like, I have to get a dog. Dissolves.
Yeah.
It's not like, you're looking at something, you're trying to do something, and then not getting one, and then you're getting disappointed that you didn't get one, or having excuses not to get one, or getting one, and all of this is just the same circular pattern, right? It's just this neurosis. Now there's just this relaxation that, okay,
you touched on something there.
Who cares?
Exactly. No, I was just going to say, you touched on something which is really curious as well to see, is the explanations and the excuses, and this here were just full of explanations of why this happened, and why that happened, and why I did this, and the excuses for not doing things. And it's all, you know, it's so much space left when that's disappeared, because it was just a constant, really trying to what's the word, you know, when you try to forget the word in English, yeah, well, when you try to excuse yourself and find a reason for things, you know, it's like kind of constant, like, you know, I guess it's a kind of similar to the cause and effect, you know, why did that happen, and, you know, etc., etc. And it's kind of disappeared, really, or it's disappearing, and this kind of need to explain things and to excuse, and it's just
everything
it's
is
crazy.
it's like a mist, right? You know, when you're walking through a fog, it's there but it's not there.
Yeah,
it's misty, but it's not there. You can still see, you can see transparently through it. You know what I'm saying? All of this stuff. That's what I mean, that there's this lucidity, or there's this transparency in everything now, because everything has this, everything is empty, really, right? You know, even that neurosis or that wanting to do something, it's all empty. It just all dissolves. You're kind of like, huh. And it's always been that way. But there was this tendency to kind of like, when a story or a want, or, you know, all of that narrative, then another one comes up, and then another one comes up, and another one comes up. It's just this looping kind of like tendencies of kind of like, you know what, the example with the dog, right? Oh, you know, I'm so lazy, you know what, I should really get a dog. And then you start looking for a dog, and you can't find a dog that you like, you know, and then you call around people, and then you find reasons not to have it, you know, all of this kind of like stuff. And then you get caught up, and then it goes back to you. Am I really a dog owner? You know what I'm saying? Am I really going to be good? Am I really going to be good with a dog? Should I get this large dog or a small breed dog, or all of these dogs? Oh my goodness, the insurance, you know what I'm saying? Is the dog going to be healthy? Should I get a puppy, or should I get this? Right? And it just keeps on going and going and going, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, no, I don't want a dog.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you go back into that thing, goes, oh, why don't I have a dog? So it goes back again.
And that's just one thing. Imagine all the rest of the things that happen in life.
I should be selling the house. You know what I'm saying? Oh, the market is really good right now. Oh, I'm going to miss this market. Oh, why am I so lazy? I should have sold it last year. I should sell it next year. It just goes on and on and on. It's just automatically happening without anyone doing it.
And it seems so important. All of these little tiny things seem so important. Like, you know, that's got to happen at this time, and that's got to happen. And if that doesn't happen, then blah, blah, blah. And
it's kind of like waking up in the morning with a lake, and there's this beautiful mist hanging over it. That's how I see it now. I'm like, oh, wow. There's just this kind of like, it's not a part of the view. It's not separate from the view. The view is whole. So there's the lake, there's the mist, that's beautiful. But sometimes people get caught up in the mist and trying to look for particles that are transparently empty. Yeah.
Yes. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. I used to work in this resort when I was a teenager, and there's this beautiful clear lake that I always loved. And there's this beautiful mist that hangs over early in the morning. So every morning I would walk, I would wake up in the morning, not every morning, but when I get a chance, and then walk through the mist and just feel the wowness of it, right? I'm like, oh wow, there's this mist. But what happens in the stories, you get caught up in the mist. And then you miss the whole view. The mist, the water, the lake, the mountains is the same view. There's nothing separate from that view. It's just this one picture. You get caught up in that, like in the color of the whatever, right? You get caught up in the gray, but the gray completes the picture. The fog completes the picture.
But the story says, like, that fog shouldn't be there, or it would be better if this was like different or whatever. It's funny in France, French people, they've got this really funny habit. And if you say to them, for example, wow, it's a beautiful day today, they'll say to you, yes, but tomorrow it's going to rain.
Yes, I've heard of that. Yeah, it's this almost kind of like
yes, but tomorrow's tomorrow. What about now? Yeah,
for now, but it's going to be hailing,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always like that though, you know what I'm saying, with the apparent with the fog, right? Or the distortion or the interpretation. I name it so many, or the translation or the noise, right? People gets focused on the noise. It doesn't see the silence, or doesn't hear the silence where, for something to appear, there has to be nothing.
Yeah.
And it's just this, it's bewildering actually, you know what I'm saying? It's this wowness. You're like, I can't explain this. Wow. And it's just all bliss. People think it's all bliss and everything. And bliss will not be bliss without the oppositeness of it, the apparent oppositeness of it, which is the I talk about this movie all the time, which is Bliss. And
all right.
did I talk to you about that?
I think I heard you mention it in one of your talks, one of the Zoom sessions.
Yeah,
but I haven't seen
it. This is apparent proof that I watch a lot of TV.
Don't worry, me too. Excellent.
So the movie about Bliss is that there's the dystopian future where it opens up in a scene where, in a dystopian future where there's a lot of suffering, homelessness, and there's this big divide, right? There's this homeless guy, and this homeless guy basically is in homeless and suffering, and meets this woman, and the woman basically says, this is not reality or something. I don't remember the movie now, but I just remember. So cut to the middle, and I'm kind of ruining the movie for you, but cut to the middle, and but you'll watch it anyway, I know. Cut to the middle, and it's just this virtual reality that they're seeing, that they're suffering. It's because in the apparent future, or in the apparent present, they've eliminated suffering, and there's just been bliss for hundreds of years. So they're taking advantage of what blissful is now. There's no more hunger, there's no more whatever.
Yeah.
So they have to go into that virtual reality called suffering to be able to experience what bliss is. So the duality, it's almost kind of like, so in this apparent dream, for this experience of apparent reality happening, for bliss to happen, there has to be an opposite.
Yeah.
Although there's no opposite, because the dream is the opposite of something that is dreamless. The dream, or the illusion, is the illusion of something that is infinite.
Right. Yeah.
Or whole. It's beautiful. You're like, oh wow. It's like that mist on a clear lake. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes sense in a way, the kind of the opposites playing out to it's impossible without the opposites. So
it's this cloud of knowing in a sea of unknowing. Yeah. We get focused on the cloud because the knower and the knowing is just an illusion, but it gets focused on its illusory. The illusion can't get out of the illusion, because all it will be able to function is as an illusion. Yeah.
So two things. One is like it's so clear, like with religion and the whole concepts of, like, I don't really understand anymore, or I can't see how religion can work in a way, because when I was Buddhist and all of the things that I had to remember and the practices and things, it seems in a way that's moving in the opposite direction, because it's kind of a heavy weight to be kind of needing to memorize, and to it's like, surely I don't need to memorize these things, but this is the opposite. In fact, this is completely like everything's gone, and it's and that's it's completely opposite. So that's really curious to see. The other thing that I noticed here is that nevertheless there seems to be learning still happens. Like, like for example, learned or innate behaviors of this, this thing that happens here seems to adapt to, I guess that's just kind of a natural,
yeah,
part
in
of
the story, right?
in the
Everything is
story.
still
Yeah.
happening, in learning. For example, I like this piano piece by, what's his name again? Ludovico
Okay.
Naldi, right? And I was trying to play it, just by ear. And I'm
Yeah.
missing some stuff in it, I was just playing. And I usually can like play the first kind of like, first minute, and then I just go all over the place. It's just improvising.
Yeah.
So the other night I was learning the tutorial of it. And I'm like,
Okay.
oh, okay, what I'm saying? That's what's missing from that piece. There's in the dream, they're still learning. Babies learn how to walk, you know what I'm saying? They learn how to, it's just this appearance of duality.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong or right about duality because it's just an appearance. It's just an appearance.
Yeah.
It's the mist that is in the clear lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not negating the story. In the
No.
story, anything. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just wholeness appearing as learning, right? But there's no more interest here in spirituality. That is
No. No.
that
No.
seeking that energy of trying to get to somewhere or trying to find some knowledge or some wisdom. And that's
Yeah.
what this character did a lot, when he was a spiritual teacher, that it was ravenous, for
Yeah.
knowledge. It
Yeah.
needed kind of like what you're saying about Buddhism, right?
Yeah.
It's learning this, the scriptures and these texts and this, and lineages and history and all of this sutras and all this stuff. And
Yeah.
there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong or right about that because it could be really
Yeah.
beautiful, but it's almost like a heavy burden because you will never get to everything, every
Yeah.
knowledge.
Yeah.
But somehow you think that to be full, you have to know everything.
Yeah.
So here is a resignation of that hoarder.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like hoarding, you know what I'm saying? Hoarding of spirituality, hoarding of knowledge, hoarding of rituals,
Yeah.
hoarding of practices, all that kind of stuff is
Yeah.
like it's like I was looking at my bio and then it said ex meditation teacher and I just deleted it. I'm like, that doesn't even really matter. This is
Yeah.
blank again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's blank.
Yeah.
This is blank.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I've had a bit of that as well with like things that I've written in the past, and I don't care if they get deleted, and a lot of the
I
things I used
love
to.
your writing though, Calvin. You should write more.
Oh, really?
That was
Yeah,
beautiful.
I
Sorry,
used
go
to
ahead.
write a
Go
lot of
ahead.
poetry. Yeah, no, I used to learn, and I love
Beautiful.
it. Yeah, so yeah, maybe I'll get back into that.
Beautiful.
Maybe that
Yeah.
will happen again. That would be right. Really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and all of, like the past, I did sorts of sorted out my cabinets and my there's lots of things that I wanted to keep because I had sentimental value, and now it's not. And it's just, this is important. This is just this anything outside of this is almost like, I dare I say, irrelevant. It's not irrelevant because it's part of the story, but it's not clung on to like as
Yeah.
identity. And I think that's the difference.
Everything is just a suggestion, and everything is just this apparition of suggestions, and it's like
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen this movie. I'm talking about a movie again, like Blade Runner, right? There's
I've
this
heard of it. It's a
popping up,
classic film. Yeah.
all of this advertisements popping up everywhere. And
Yeah.
that's just like thoughts, there's this advertisement here, it's
Yeah.
advertising goodness, advertising, it's just all advertisements, it's all spam.
Yeah. Yeah, straight in the bin.
It's all ads. It's all ads about something, saying ads about desire, ads about losing your desires, ads about this, ads about getting a dog, ads about it's all an ad
Try
trying
this.
to maintain this reality when there's no reality really.
Yeah.
Right? It's because reality is just another word for something that cannot be explained.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, ultimately it's just a mystery. It's just a complete and utter beautiful, sometimes not so beautiful mystery. And that's
yeah.
Well, nobody, there's nothing could be understood here. so many people trying to understand and explain, and it's just completely impossible.
Totally, yeah. It's impossible. This is the impossibility, right? It's kind of like sometimes, you know, what in the apparent, the unhappening, I would just shake my head. I'm like, I would just be like, wow, wow, this is impossible. This is impossible. This is unthinkable. It can't be. It
Unthinkable,
can't.
yeah.
Yeah. But it's really undeniable, right? This undeniable. I no wonder, you know what I'm saying, when I, and this is not, you know, this is just what's appearing. No wonder, you know, there's apparent teachers that captures this and captures this into a prescription because it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But it loses its boundlessness when it becomes as a bound religion, as a bound prescription, kind of like, you know, how to get to awareness, all that kind of stuff, or abiding in it, when it cannot, when it's just appearing as it is.
Yeah, and you know what, Emerson, I'm really grateful for this. You know, you said that you waited a few years to be able to talk about this, and you know, I think that was an excellent thing to do, because this message is so direct, so clear, so empty of fluff. I don't know if you know the expression, but that, you know, it's very well, it's not easy, but it's direct, and it goes straight to the, you know, it cuts to the chase. And it's easy to see now, like, you know, other speakers, all the nonsense and the noise that goes around this kind of teaching. And okay, I'm not, you know, I can't know if they are particularly, you know, awakened or whatever you want to say it, but whatever it is, it's very confusing. You know, the language that's used and the terms and explanations, it's very, very confusing. So this is, you know, it's very beautiful, and I still enjoy listening to, you know, the your Zooms and the retreats, and it's like it's almost kind of enriching. It's difficult to describe, but this kind of a really comfortable, kind of joyful experience of just hearing, you know, the message, and it's beautiful. It really is.
Thank you. Yeah, so, it's in the story, you know what I'm saying, I used to do a lot of fluff, you know what I'm saying, speaking, which is just and although sometimes, you know, like towards the ending, I knew that it was all bullshit, really, right? But since I was caught up in that lineage, in that you know, sacredness of it and everything, all of that story, what was coming out was just this, admittedly now, you know what I'm saying, was just really a lot of fluff, right? So when this dropped away, you know what I'm saying, the fluff dropped away, this character can't help just being really blunt about it, and just saying that this is not a lifestyle, this is not a prescription, this is not a knowing, or this is not about magical thinking, you know, about like you know, like a divine being or something, because I'm getting a lot of correspondence of people saying that, what is this person talking about this now and this now and that now? And I basically say, although there's no speakers out there, there is some really foggy communication.
Definitely.
That's happening. Really a lot of mist, you know what I'm saying? So this is seeing the mist and seeing the lake at the same time, that it's not separate, but also saying, you know, clearly just illuminating that the mist is just fluff. It's not about it's not about getting it, you know, or I hear you. But thank you for that.
No, it's important. I wanted to say that, and also I think that's been a big stopper for me in the past, because if you listen to, or you hear all of these kind of concepts and ideas and awareness, etc., then there's a tendency to latch onto those and say, right, now I'm looking for awareness, or now I'm looking for abiding, or now, you know, this person's experienced that, so now, you know, I need to experience that as well. And there can be like, you know, forcing ourselves to kind of experience or to see something, and it's blocking in a way, you know, that's kind of almost,
it is
because it's taking you away from that's why it's great, because you change your language and things, because there's nothing for anybody to latch onto. Oh, he said that now. Okay, so now I'm looking for that. Like you say, you give it and you take it away, and it's gone. So that's
it's gone.
Yeah.
Always there's this fluidity in this communication. Doesn't have any boundaries, and when it sees that there is a stuckness there, it destroys that. You know what I'm saying? Stuckness. And I must say this, you know what I'm saying, because someone communicated in the story when I was a spiritual teacher, I was really into knowledge and everything and purification of myself. So I at one point, because there was this delusion that I am above everybody now. That at one point I was just eating fruits that was falling off a tree. And I've mentioned this several times, you know what I'm saying? Kind of like the no harm thing. And I was convinced that but really I was thinking about burgers and whatever, but I was appearing that I was really alive. You know what I'm saying? That this is the best I've felt. And then I was almost this, lost weight and everything and all this kind of stuff, and euphoric at the same time, because I thought that I was reaching, this level of enlightenment or something. But really what I was trying to do is the initial glimpse, although I tried to maintain it, collapsed, and then I just found a way of trying to do another glimpse or something by starving myself. Which is really euphoric, actually, you know what I'm saying, but it's really dangerous, right? So and I'm not going to mention names, but I've been getting a lot of people communicating to me about the speaker that has gone from non-duality into kind of like backwards of what's happening. There are no levels. There is no other than this, right? And there's nothing wrong or right about that apparent speaker. But in the story, you know what I'm saying, what happened with this character is it just collapsed after that, right? It just went into severe suffering and everything. And meanwhile, presenting this kind of like that I have found a way. So when there's a lifestyle that's being prescribed, or there is a way of prescribing that there's something better than this, then that's the fog. Right? There's the fogginess of that, or it's just a happening. You know what I'm saying? In the story, it's just a happening. There's this clarity that there's nothing needed. There's nothing needed, and that there's already this. And I've always say this, and this is just another story, right? Since we're going at this, right? It's kind of funny that there's a lot of prescription, but there's no results. And the result is just another story. When I was prescribing things, for 10 years, there was no conversation like this that we're doing now. That there's this apparent unconditional freedom in the way that we talk, right? Because there was this hierarchy that you got something and everybody was still suffering. And I was supposed to be the one that was not suffering. But really I was also suffering, right? So that's why there's this overflowing sharing of this nothingness, is because it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
It's that's beautiful. I mean, you go through. Let's talk about Muji. He was and still is, has all these followers and etc. And it's like putting himself above the others. But this communication is just so beautiful, because it's like there is no, like you say, no levels or hierarchy, or it's I don't know, there's something not quite right about that kind of hierarchy thing. It's like, I'm better than you, and you need to do this what I tell you, and then you'll be, but you'll still never be as good as me because I'm up here and you're there. It's like it just didn't seem healthy in a way, like,
no.
And yet this is just, there's no, it's all equal. It's just like,
it's not showing someone a better way. Because everything is as it is already. Unconditional love is as it is. Right? There's no levels to this. There's no levels. There's no hierarchies to this. It's there's no specialness to this. And that's what sometimes is what is seen here, that there seems to be this specialness now, and there's this expression that I'm so much better now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've improved now.
I found a better way.
And you improved, Calvin. You're gonna love it.
Good for the dream, you know what I'm saying? But the dream is still a
Yeah,
dream. A dream is
yeah,
still a dream,
yeah,
right? And sometimes, you know, some and this is just what's happening. Sometimes it's spoken too soon, if you know what I mean.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
spoken too soon that when it collapses, it finds another way.
yeah,
Or it goes
yeah,
back into religiousness. It
yeah,
becomes a religion again. It becomes this kind of like it becomes this divine consciousness or whatever, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Whatever is being
yeah,
spoken about. It
yeah,
becomes this belief again, right? So
yeah,
there's a suspension of belief. And then when this is kind of funny, when this suspension of belief begins a belief,
yeah,
the belief comes back underground, and it
yeah,
becomes this grand belief now that all is nothing now. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
This is not a belief, what's being
yeah,
spoken about here. There's this delicious nothingness that's happening here. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? That
yeah,
everything
yeah,
is allowed and everything,
yeah, yeah,
um and there's no holiness or any of that, or specialness
yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever seems to appear, right? It's
yeah,
just this whateverness,
yeah.
so whatness.
Yeah, yeah. And there's also here, like, it's very, I wouldn't say careful, but it's the only word I can use, or the seeing of anything that isn't seen, like, you know, or the words that you use or somebody else, not taking any of those on as a belief, whereas before that would have happened a lot.
Yeah,
It's like, you know, it's either seen or it's not, but there's no point in just saying, oh yes, everything's nothing, just because that's what all that, you know. No, it's like, what is
no,
what is, what's happening is happening, what is seen is what's seen, and that's it.
yeah,
Nothing more, and that's it.
yeah. I don't know if people catch this, but when I speak, it doesn't come from a place of knowing. It comes from a
Yeah,
place of disbelief.
yeah,
So it's like there's no death. And then sometimes I'll be like, there's no death. And it auto corrects it.
yeah. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
basically all of this unknowing. It's this flowing of like disbelief.
yeah,
But it's also there's also this how do you say it? There's no awareness, but there's also this communication that there's nothing to know, but there's this undeniability at the same time
yeah,
of what's being expressed. And the undeniable is that this is a mystery and it
yeah,
cannot be figured out. So it doesn't land anywhere.
yeah,
It doesn't how do you say it? It does there's no conclusion.
yeah, mm,
There's no conclusion. And this doesn't really know anything,
yeah,
right? All of this stuff is just spewing out, coming out
yeah.
of nothing.
But that's so free. That is just
Yeah,
so free, because
yeah,
before, like, you know, with Buddhism, there were all these conversations with other Buddhists, like, you know, talking about karma and reincarnation, and like, oh, be careful what you do there, because da da da, and it's all coming out as
yeah, yeah,
knowledge, and it's so heavy. And here
yeah,
it's the opposite. It's like there's no need to know anything. You know, it just
yeah,
comes from nothing, and
yeah,
there's nothing to carry.
yeah. And when I was a spiritual teacher, I didn't see this before, but I was actually doing more harm than good. And that's just a story as well, right? Because somebody would come with trauma. I'm like, let's work on your inner child. This
Yeah,
doesn't have any experience in trauma and everything and all that kind of stuff. All of this mumbo jumbo, or you know what, maybe you should clear your chakras and that kind of stuff,
yeah,
or maybe you should
yeah,
meditate. Here, there's just this is, you know what, there's no one here, but there's compassion now, saying this brutal honesty that if somebody is suffering, it will just say that, what is happening is this is not a prescription of anything. So if there
yeah,
is a mental illness or a trauma there, this is not for the communication of it.
yeah,
You should
yeah,
seek, although there's in the
yeah,
dream seeking professional help
yeah,
is, it doesn't pretend anymore. There's no
yeah,
pretension anymore, because there is no authority. There's no, this doesn't know anything. What's coming out of here is nothing.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's right. There's no person to know anything. No, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
that's free.
yeah. It's free. It's just this.
Yeah,
It's just this unconditionally free. You know what I'm saying? And it's
yeah,
not. It's not trying to get you somewhere. It's not trying to do anything. But there's this gladness here,
yeah,
right, of communicating this this apparent communication that doesn't get you anywhere, because there's no you to get anywhere. And it's just, it's kind of like, you know what, there's this honesty here now that there's nothing that I can offer anyone, because there's no one here. This is coming from a place of unknowing, not a certainty. And I think that's the most it's really kind. It's really, really kind, rather than prescribing, you know, awareness this, or a better living, or, you know, a lifestyle, you know, follow what I'm eating or doing, or techniques, all that kind of stuff. And there was this almost like a numbness to that at the end of the spiritual teaching, because there was almost kind of like it was just maintaining it was almost kind of like, it was just almost like this facade, right, that you figured out a long time, and you really feel bad, and you're really crying for it. You're kind of like, I don't want to do this anymore. And there's this shame and guilt and on all that kind of stuff. And the character wanted to get out of that, you know, but it was its identity, it was its legacy. There's this legacy of being a, you know, Buddhism and spiritual teaching and all that kind of stuff, you know, kind of like what you're talking about. And then when you see that legacy is just a fog, it's just a mist. And then when you walk through it, you're like, oh, it's been clear all this time.
Exactly. I know we have to go soon. I just wanted to ask you, Emerson, when do we get to hear you play the piano?
I've been recording some of it actually, but the recording is not quite great, because I need a gadget for it. I'm recording it through a mic, but my mic is so sensitive that you hear everything else.
Oh, the tapping on the keys.
The tapping on the keys, and there's an apparent perfectionist here when it comes to music, and I'm like, man. So I just find this. So I you know, one of the videos that I did, I kind of like Chopin, you know, like the death march, right, or the funeral or whatever, one of those things. And I was playing that, and I was like, oh, this is great, you know what I'm saying? Because you know, dun 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 dun. It's just beautiful, because you would think it's a somber thing, but it goes into this aliveness. There's no intention for it, but I just love that it's just this really kind of like this march, but towards the middle, it goes into this explosion of like dun dun dun, you know, it's just beautiful. So I added it in one of my videos, and
you played it?
No, because I heard the tapping.
Okay.
And I was like stomping my feet, you know what I'm saying? You play the piano, right? So that you hear all of that kind of like, you know, the pedals and stuff, and you're kind of like, oh, it's really, really passionate playing. But and all of a sudden I heard the kitchen, you know, saying all this. Maybe I should it's just as it is, right?
Yeah, but why not? Yeah,
it's just as it is. But I also found that in YouTube you have this versions of, you know, I found a version of it that I can post, you know, without all of that clanging and everything. So I just posted that. It's the same anyway. There's nothing wrong or right about that. But there was I love the intensity and the what do you call that foreboding feeling, right, of death. And then it goes into this explosion that it's the foreboding and this aliveness, the death and aliveness are the same. As I mentioned earlier, there's so much aliveness in death.
You said that. I think there's so much kind of bad press around death, isn't there?
Well, this is death and this is not death, but you're right. You're right. But I'm going to pause this recording now. Thank you so much, Calvin.